Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Bill is Brooke's true match, not Ridge. Even though Brooke Logan is devoted to pursuing Ridge Forrester in the hopes that he will eventually declare his love for her, another man has been vying for her attention the entire time. Instead, Brooke belongs with Bill. It goes without saying that the man in question is Bill Spencer. In this made-up Los Angeles community, Bill appeared to be the only person who genuinely accepted Brooke for who she was. His love, protection, and complete lack of judgment were the best things he could have given Brooke. But more than anything else, their connection appeared to be a private one. Because Brooke always imagined that Ridge and his constant acceptance and support were the one thing she was unable to have. Brooke seems to be striving more for Ridge's approval than for his affection. However, Bill has always been there in the background and would quickly bring her back if she would just let him. However, she hasn't yet. Is it time for Brooke and Bill to reunite? As our devoted readers are aware, there was a lot of discussion about the issue on the internet. Brooke is only looking for Ridge's approval. Some even said in their comments, they were a really nice fit. They are both daring, tolerant of one another's imperfections, encouraging, etc. And above all, he had Brooke's back without passing judgment. Yep, he always had her back no matter what, commented another critic. I continue to believe that Brooke is his true love. He simply isn't as hallucinogenic as Ridge. Taylor's overconfidence might be the cause of her demise. Taylor excessively confident. Even though Nick was competing for Brooke's affections once more in Italy, Ridge was able to win her back, as many fans of the Bold and the Beautiful are already aware. But if we've learned anything about Brooke over the years, it's that she's the kind of person who enjoys repeating the same mistakes. Needless to say, a number of B&B fans expressed their opinions on social media. Some even said, it's hilarious that the world-renowned psychiatrist actually had the gall to advise Brooke not to be pitiful in her pursuit of Ridge. I'm referring to the way that Taylor stalked Brooke and Ridge during their most recent remote shoot. What will happen with Taylor Hayes next? And she keeps bringing up that she is engaged, wrote another show critic. However, it was she who asked Ridge to marry her, forced him to do so, and forced him to put the ring on her finger. He now continuously tells Taylor how glad he is to be engaged to her in an attempt to persuade himself. But is he? Additionally, the following observation was made: she lacks confidence. Morning, noon, and night, she only discusses Brooke. Even if they get married, she can't really believe she can keep Ridge. He has probably had a dozen marriages. Brooke and Taylor have married him multiple times to 4 or 5 women. The entire situation is a farce. Want to wed Paris with Ridge and Taylor? Taylor Hayes and Ridge Forrester? Given that he is engaged to Taylor and yearns for Brooke Logan, Ridge is already feeling awful about his current circumstances. Ridge doesn't want to lose up on a fresh future with Brooke, but it also feels impossible to break Taylor's heart. Ridge was pushed in Brooke's direction by all the turmoil in Italy, but it wasn't enough to force him to call off his engagement to Taylor just yet. Since Kelly Spencer's joy about her wedding isn't helping, perhaps B&B may give in to the pressure from the family after Thomas returns to the screen. It's simple to picture Thomas putting Ridge on the spot with this double wedding pitch. Ridge might feel pressured to follow the idea when Taylor says something about how great it sounds. Of course, it's possible that while they were abroad, Thomas and Paris' engagement ended. Given that B&B hasn't been providing updates recently, it's difficult to predict Paris and Thomas's relationship state at this time. Nevertheless, we should at least entertain the idea that Paris is still Thomas's fiancée and that their wedding is still planned. Keep an eye out for any messes the news may cause, because Thomas might wish to combine their wedding with Ridge and Taylor's special day. There may be a double wedding catastrophe on the horizon. Although Ridge and Brooke are meant to be together in the end, there will be additional complications before they do. Brooke Logan's quest for love and validation on The Bold and the Beautiful has, for many astute viewers, become a tragicomic opera centered on a singular, flawed premise, that her destiny is eternally intertwined with the mercurial Ridge Forrester. Yet, a compelling and often overlooked truth persists beneath the dizzying cycle of their breakups and reunions, a truth that reveals a profound misdirection in the narrative of her heart, Brooke's true match was never the elusive, judgmental Ridge. It was, and perhaps always will be, the fiercely loyal and unconditionally accepting William Spencer. While she has spent a lifetime chasing the fickle approval of a man who represents an unattainable fantasy of aristocratic acceptance and conditional love, Bill Spencer has been waiting steadfastly in the wings, not as a consolation prize, but as her genuine equal and perfect complement, offering a love that is raw, real, and refreshingly free of the sanctimonious scrutiny that has defined her other relationships. The core of Brooke's tragic flaw is her relentless pursuit of Ridge's validation, a quest that often overshadows her desire for his love itself. She is not merely seeking a partner but a stamp of approval from the Forrester patriarch, a symbol of having finally made it into a world that once looked down on the promiscuous Logan girl from the valley. And this desperate need for acceptance from a man who has repeatedly withheld it has blinded her to the man who offered it freely and without reservation. In stark contrast to Ridge's constant wavering, his history of leaving her at the altar for his ex-wife, and his infuriating habit of placing her on a pedestal only to shatter her the moment she proves human, Bill Spencer's love for Brooke was revolutionary in its simplicity and power. He saw the magnificent, flawed, passionate woman behind the Destiny perfume label and loved every part of her, not in spite of her complexities but because of them. He provided her with something Ridge never could, a fortress of unwavering support and protection, a partnership where she was never made to feel ashamed of her past, her mistakes, or her formidable Logan spirit. Where Ridge would sermonize and withdraw, Bill would stand defiantly by her side, his loyalty an impenetrable shield against the hypocritical judgments of their families and the outside world. He was her champion in every sense of the word, a fact not lost on the audience, as echoed by one fan who astutely noted, "They were actually such a good match." Both adventurous, accepting of each other and each other's flaws, supportive, and most importantly, he absolutely had Brooke's back, zero judgment. This absence of judgment is the most critical differentiator between the two men. Ridge's love has always been conditional, contingent upon Brooke living up to an impossible ideal of perfection he himself could never maintain, while Bill's love was a declaration of absolute acceptance, a promise that she could be her fully realized self, ambitions, desires, and all, without fear of condemnation. Their chemistry, too, was of a different, more potent breed than the often exhausting, angst-ridden dynamic she shared with Ridge. With Bill, Brooke was not a supplicant begging for scraps of affection but an empowered queen ruling alongside her king, their connection forged in a mutual understanding of ambition, passion, and a shared willingness to burn the world down for each other. They were two sides of the same coin, both self-made titans who fought tooth and nail to build their empires from the ground up, both unafraid to be labeled ruthless or unconventional in the pursuit of what they wanted, and both possessing a raw, visceral passion that made their scenes together crackle with an authenticity that Brooke and Ridge's often repetitive storyline has long since lost. Bill loved the fighter in Brooke, he admired her tenacity, her business acumen, and her refusal to be cowed by the Forresters, whereas Ridge has consistently sought to tame her, to smooth her rough edges and fit her into a more palatable, docile version of a Forrester wife. This fundamental difference in how they view her essence is everything. Ridge loves an idealized concept of Brooke, the good Brooke who conforms to his moral code, while Bill loved the real, entire Brooke, scandals, resilience, and all. Another fan commentator hit the nail on the head, asserting, "Yep, he always had her back no matter what. I still think his true love is Brooke. He's just not delusional like Ridge." This statement reveals a profound truth about Bill's character. His love for Brooke was the one vulnerability that could soften his hardened heart, the one constant that remained even amidst his own myriad of transgressions, and his inability to ever truly move on from her suggests a depth of feeling that transcends mere plot device and points to a soul-deep connection. The tragedy of Bridge is that it is a relationship built on a foundation of fantasy and perpetual dissatisfaction, a cycle where Brooke is forever striving to become worthy of a man who has never fully committed to her, a man who holds her history against her while conveniently forgetting his own. Her relationship with Bill, however, was built on the solid ground of reality and mutual respect. They knew each other's darkest secrets and most glaring flaws and chose to stand together regardless, forming a united front that was, for a time, the most powerful and intriguing force in Los Angeles. Brooke's failure to ultimately choose Bill, to break free from the gravitational pull of her Ridge-centric destiny, is the greatest testament to her own internalized lack of self-worth. She has been conditioned to believe that the struggle for Ridge's love is her penance and her purpose, that the pain of his rejection is a price worth paying for those fleeting moments of acceptance, and in doing so, she has repeatedly walked away from the man who asked for no penance at all. Bill saw her not as a project to be improved but as a masterpiece to be cherished, and his willingness to take her back in a heartbeat, even after their own painful betrayals, speaks to an understanding that their bond was worth fighting for, something Ridge has rarely afforded her without first making her suffer. The question of whether Brooke and Bill should reunite is not merely a fan theory but a compelling argument for narrative evolution and emotional maturity. It represents a chance for Brooke to finally choose herself, to choose a love that empowers rather than diminishes her, to break a generational cycle of yearning and embrace a partnership that offers peace instead of perpetual turmoil. The internet's fervent support for this pairing is a testament to the audience's ability to see beyond the manufactured drama to the core of what makes a relationship truly great, not grand, dramatic gestures and on-again, off-again turmoil, but the quiet, steadfast certainty of having a partner who is your unwavering ally. In the end, Ridge Forrester is the fantasy Brooke has been taught to want, the prince, the designer, the symbol of a world she was told she couldn't have, but Bill Spencer is the reality she truly needs, the fellow warrior, the unwavering protector, the man who loves the real her without condition or judgment. He is her true match not in a fairy tale, but in the complex, messy, and magnificent reality of her life, and until she recognizes that the love she has been desperately seeking has always been waiting for her in Bill's arms, her story will remain one of unfulfilled potential, a tragic tale of a woman looking for validation in all the wrong places while ignoring the man who offered her everything she truly needed. Taylor Hayes's overconfidence. Having seemingly triumphed in the eternal war for Ridge Forrester's heart, her return from Italy with her engagement ring securely on her finger and her rival, Brooke Logan, definitively in the rearview mirror, has fostered in her a sense of invulnerable victory that is not merely unearned but is fundamentally a delusion. A meticulously crafted house of cards built on the shifting sands of Ridge's indecision and her own desperate need to rewrite history. This towering, audacious confidence, which she wields like a weapon to chastise and belittle Brooke, is not the mark of a secure woman but the bluster of a deeply insecure one, and it is this very arrogance, this refusal to see the glaringly obvious patterns of the past and the instability of her present, that is meticulously setting the stage for her most devastating downfall yet. The sheer irony, as astutely noted by viewers, is staggering. This is, after all, a world-renowned psychiatrist who had the gall to label Brooke pathetic for chasing Ridge, a breathtakingly hypocritical stance from a woman whose most recent chapter began with her literally stalking the couple on a remote shoot, a clear act of pathetic desperation that now seems conveniently erased from her personal narrative, replaced instead with a crown of righteous victory. This selective memory is the engine of her overconfidence. She has convinced herself, and is fervently trying to convince everyone in her orbit, most especially Ridge and herself, that this time is different, that their love has transcended the messy, cyclical drama of the past. She constantly foregrounds her engaged status as if repeating the fact is an incantation powerful enough to make it true and permanent, yet as another viewer keenly observed, this engagement was her own initiative, a move that placed a visibly hesitant Ridge on the spot and forced his hand into sliding that ring onto her finger. This foundational moment, far from being a romantic promise, was a strategic maneuver, and the resulting dynamic is not one of two blissful partners but of one constantly reassuring the other. Ridge's incessant proclamations of happiness, "Look at me, I'm happy, I'm exactly where I want to be," are delivered with a fervor that feels less like a genuine declaration and more like a man trying to convince himself of a truth he feels slipping through his fingers, a performance for his own benefit as much as for Taylor's and the outside world's. His happiness seems performative, a script he is obligated to recite, and every time he says it, the chasm between the performance and reality widens, a chasm Taylor is choosing to ignore, her confidence blinding her to the quiet desperation in his eyes. The most damning evidence against Taylor's purported confidence, however, lies not in Ridge's behavior but in her own obsessive fixation. A truly confident and secure woman, having won her prize, would not need to constantly invoke the name of her defeated rival. Yet, as noted, Taylor's dialogue is saturated with Brooke. she brings her up morning, noon, and night, betraying an obsession that proves Brooke is not a ghost of the past but a living, breathing presence in Taylor's mind, the permanent specter at the feast. This isn't the behavior of a victor, it is the telltale sign of a woman who knows, on some subconscious level, that her victory is provisional and fragile. Her confidence is a performance designed to keep the looming shadow of Brooke at bay, a desperate attempt to speak her preferred reality into existence by drowning out the whispers of doubt with shouts of triumph. She is trying to build a fortress of confidence, but every mention of Brooke is another crack in the foundation, revealing the deep-seated terror that Ridge's heart was never fully hers to claim and that his return was less about choosing Taylor and more about momentarily rejecting a version of Brooke. This willful blindness to history is perhaps the most profound element of her impending downfall. Ridge Forrester's romantic history is a roadmap of broken vows and fresh starts. He has been married over a dozen times, ping-ponging primarily between these two women, making a mockery of the very institution Taylor now believes will secure her destiny. To think that a marriage license, a piece of paper he has treated with such cavalier disregard throughout his life, could somehow act as a permanent leash against his fundamental nature is the height of naivete or, more accurately, a spectacular act of self-deception. Her confidence is built on the absurd premise that Ridge is a changed man, that this engagement, this marriage, will be the exception to a rule he has written his entire life. She ignores the undeniable chemistry, the toxic, magnetic pull that forever exists between Ridge and Brooke, a force that has broken up seemingly solid marriages time and again. Taylor's overconfidence is her decision to believe the laws of physics no longer apply to her, that she alone can stop the gravitational pull between her fiancé and his greatest love. She is celebrating while standing directly on the train tracks, refusing to hear the whistle of the oncoming locomotive of history, a history that has repeated itself too many times to count. In the end, Taylor's overconfidence is her tragic flaw, the hubris that the Greeks understood always preceded a devastating fall. It is a shield against a reality she cannot bear to face, that she may have Ridge's promise, but she likely never truly reclaimed his whole heart. Her need to proclaim her victory from the rooftops and demean Brooke is an attempt to validate a win that feels hollow. She is not confident, she is terrified, and her bravado is the mask she wears to hide that terror from herself most of all. This entire situation is, as a viewer rightly called it, a joke, but the punchline will be entirely on Taylor. When the facade inevitably crumbles, when Ridge's gaze inevitably wanders back to the woman who has been the constant object of Taylor's obsessive fears, her downfall will be so much more catastrophic because of the height from which she will fall. It is a height constructed not of genuine love and security, but of pride, denial, and a desperate, overconfident refusal to see the writing on the wall, writing that spells out, in letters clear to everyone but her, that this is not an ending, but merely another painful pause in the endless, tragic cycle between Ridge, Brooke, and the woman arrogant enough to believe she could finally break it. Ridge Forrester and Taylor Hayes standing alongside Thomas Forrester and Paris Buckingham at a shared altar is less a romantic proposition and more a powder keg disguised in floral arrangements and chiffon, a beautifully wrapped promise of disaster that perfectly encapsulates the show's core themes of love, obligation, and the destructive, magnetic pull of destiny. At the heart of this potential plotline lies Ridge Forrester, a man perpetually caught in the gravitational pull of two suns, currently orbiting Taylor but feeling the inexorable, familiar heat from Brooke Logan. His engagement to Taylor is, on the surface, a testament to their shared history, deep friendship, and the healing they have fought for. Yet, it is a foundation built on the precarious sand of his unresolved longing. He is a man emotionally split in two. His sense of honor and genuine affection for Taylor wars against a primal, almost fated connection to Brooke, the logical choice, perpetually undermined by the destined feeling. This internal civil war leaves him uniquely vulnerable, a state of being that his son, Thomas, whether by design or naive enthusiasm, is poised to exploit. Thomas's return to Los Angeles, presumably still engaged to the kind-hearted Paris, provides the crucial catalyst. Fresh from the romantic drama of Italy, where Ridge's proximity to Brooke undoubtedly reawakened old desires and sowed new seeds of doubt about his current path, Ridge is already emotionally raw and questioning his decisions. He feels bad enough, burdened by the guilt of his wandering heart, and the idea of personally shattering Taylor's renewed faith in him seems an unbearable act of cruelty. He is trapped in a gilded cage of his own making, seeking a way out that doesn't paint him as the villain, a path of least resistance that allows him to postpone the inevitable, painful decision. Enter Thomas Forrester, a character whose entire recent arc has been a masterclass in manipulation disguised as redemption. Seeing his father's palpable discomfort and recognizing the fragile state of the engagement, Thomas could easily make the pitch for a double wedding, framing it not as a pressure tactic but as a beautiful, unifying family event. He would sell the vision with the skill of a master marketer, a celebration of 2 generations of Forresters finding love and stability, a powerful symbol of the family moving forward together, healed and whole. He would appeal to Ridge's deep-seated desire for family unity, especially after years of conflict. In this moment, Thomas wouldn't be putting his father on the spot out of malice, but out of a warped sense of what is best for everyone, a trait he has often exhibited. He genuinely believes his life is best with hope, just as he would genuinely believe, in this moment, that his father's life is best with his mother. By merging the weddings, he makes it exponentially more difficult for Ridge to back out, transforming a personal decision into a public, familial commitment. The pressure wouldn't just be from Thomas, it would be amplified by the infectious, innocent excitement of Kelly Spencer. Her joy at the prospect of her parents finally marrying would be a weapon of mass emotional manipulation, her smiles and dreams making the cost of cancellation feel not just personal, but paternal. Ridge, for all his flaws, is a devoted father, and disappointing his daughter might, in his conflicted state, feel like a greater sin than betraying his own heart. The most tragic figure in this proposed scenario is undoubtedly Dr. Taylor Hayes. A woman of immense intelligence and compassion, she is also heartbreakingly vulnerable when it comes to Ridge Forrester, her one great love. Having been through so much, and having finally secured a renewed commitment from him, her capacity for self-deception where he is concerned is vast. Upon hearing Thomas's idea, she would likely be the first to pipe up, her voice filled with radiant, unguarded delight. She would call it wonderful, perfect, fate. In her eyes, it would be the ultimate symbol of their blended family's triumph, a perfect bookend to their tumultuous history. Her enthusiastic agreement would be the final nail in the coffin of Ridge's escape route. To reject the idea after Taylor has so publicly and joyfully embraced it would be to publicly humiliate her and reveal his